So recently a viewer of the channel was telling me how he went to a tournament in Barcelona and pretty much his team got absolutely destroyed in each game. His team got smoked every game, and pretty much he was telling me how he got humbled by the players he played against. Now, we've all been there as footballers where we've played a game or we've played tournaments where we've just got absolutely humbled, you understand? Me in particular, I've been humbled in my life. Like I've been on the end of, 9-0 defeats, 7-1 defeats, 5-0. Like I've seen it all. I've beaten teams by 7 and I've lost by 7 as well. So I've seen it all, whether it was playing 11-a-side matches against academies, whether it was playing, 7-a-side tournaments against different academies, whether it was playing playing futsal games, playing futsal games with the other teams scoring in double digits. Like I've been humbled all the way through. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to actually recover from that and what mindset you should actually carry out after this actually happens to you. Now the obvious answer is to forget this even happened, blank it out, don't let it affect your confidence, and just sort of put it out of your mind. Just forget that it even happened. And I agree with this advice to a certain degree. However, I feel like you need to analyze what actually happened, at least a little bit, because there's always lessons you can learn from your losses. Like we've all heard those phrases, take the lessons from your losses. We've all heard of that phrase, and I feel like there's always a lesson that you can learn. And I can think off the top of my head, like me always taking a certain lesson from every single defeat that happened. You always have to ask yourself the questions, okay, why did this happen? How did this happen? Why were those players so much better than us? Why did they play so much better than us? Was it just that they were better on the day? Was it that they just had better team chemistry? Or you just ask yourself, is it me as an individual, or were my teammates not good enough? And obviously you have to be real with yourself as well. There's certain harsh truths you have to tell yourself, because I know a lot of footballers are very delusional, bro. Especially where I'm from. I'm from East London. East London ballers, we're some of the most delusional ballers, bro, which is a good thing as well. That irrational self-confidence is a good thing. However, where sometimes people are so blind to like what they actually need to work on their game. Some people overrate themselves way too much, and it's a thing where it's like, you just have to be real with yourself sometimes. When you do get humbled in that sort of manner, you take a heavy defeat, or players are just looking so much better than you, you have to ask yourself the questions. Alright, cool, why were they so much better than me? What did they do that I didn't do? Where can I improve, and how can I not let this happen to me again? The main example that I can currently think of off the top of my head is when my team got absolutely destroyed by a certain academy. I remember we went up there and we got destroyed. They just showed us levels that day, and I was reflecting, I was like, what was like the one or two of the biggest differences between me and the other players? And the differences for me that stood out was the speed of play and ultimately the decision making. So upon further reflection and deeper analysis, I was like, okay, why is this? Why is their speed of play quicker than mine, and why do they make better decision making than me? Why is their decision making better than mine? And it simply just came down to 3 things in my opinion. First, it was scanning, then it was double movements, and then it was their anaerobic fitness. So when it comes to scanning, I realized that I was playing in centre mid. I was realizing the centre mid opposite me, he was constantly just scanning. His head was just constantly moving way before he got the ball. Like at that time, I was like 16. I thought that, alright, cool, I just need to take 1 or 2 scans before I receive the ball. But he was constantly just scanning. The ball was on the other side of the pitch, and he was still just scanning, just sort of looking around, just sort of knowing where his opponents are, where his teammates are, just drawing up a picture in his head, just understanding, alright, cool, if this happens, this is what I can do. If this happens, this is what I can do. This is going to be my next action. This is how many touches I'm going to take in this scenario. What type of touch am I going to take? What's going to be my action? Am I going to pass, dribble? Am I going to drive with the ball? You understand? So literally, scanning was one of the things that separated me, because when I was receiving the ball, I was only scanning when I was receiving the ball. You understand? When I saw the ball was coming to me, that's when I'll be like, oh shit, yep, and then I'll receive the ball. Whereas guys on the other team, they were scanning. It was just constant. You understand? It was just constant. They weren't just scanning when the ball was coming into them. They were scanning, 4 or 5 passes before the ball was coming into them. Because obviously, sometimes in football, you can see the patterns where, let's say the ball goes to the right back, the centre back, then it'll go out to the winger, and then it'll come into the centre mid. But the centre mid was scanning, when the ball was on the other side of the pitch. Like I said, 4 or 5 passes before it would even get to him. You understand? So and obviously when you scan, like I said, it's going to lead to bad decision making as well. Your speed of play is going to be quicker because you already know what you're going to do. You know what you're going to do on the ball. You're not sort of, the ball doesn't get to you and then you're sort of like, alright, cool, where are my options? It's like you already know where everyone is, which I already said leads to you knowing how many touches to take, what type of touch to take, and what action to actually do on the pitch. Then you got your double movements. Now double movements, they create that time and space on the ball. It just gives you that sort of, it just gives you an inch just to do what you need to do, you understand? We've heard that phrase in football where it's like a striker, you know, he creates a yard for himself, to get his shot away. Whereas a double movement is sort of like creating a yard for yourself, but off the ball, you know what I'm saying? You actually without the ball. A double movement is literally like, you know, you faking to receive the ball in one direction and then you pulling out to get the ball in another direction. So double movement can literally be me faking to go receive the ball short and then sort of pulling out and then, you know, receiving on the back foot and turning. Or it can literally just be a case of, you know, me pretending that I'm making a run in behind and then I'm coming short for the ball, you know, just to fake out my marker, just to fake out my defender, to literally, you know, just give myself that time and space. When I was playing against the academy, everyone was doing that, literally double movements all over the pitch. It was never a point where, you know, they were standing still and then they just sort of went to go receive it at, you know, a lackadaisical pace. They just went to receive it and they said, yes, give me the ball. It was always this. It was always, you know, it was always just double movements. Sometimes even triple. Sometimes they'll look over there, they'll go bang, bang, and then they want the ball again. You know, they come short for the ball, bounce it back. Like I said before, just keep on scanning, and then they're like, yeah, and then they go in for it, and then they pull out once again. They pull out this way to receive on the right foot, or this way to receive on their left, you understand? So literally double movements is key. If you want, you know, just to give yourself that time and space on the ball, trust me, double movements is key. Literally scanning and double movements is just going to help your game so much, because it's going to create that time and space for you. And obviously when you have more time, you have more space on the ball, you're going to make better decision making and you're ultimately going to lose the ball way less. You're going to retain the ball so much more. This is why guys like Toni Kroos, Pirlo, Modric, it seems like on the pitch they have all the time in the world. Obviously you combine that with a bit of press resistance as well, because when you're press resistance, people are more reluctant to, you know, press you hard. But trust me, scanning and double movements, trust me, you'll find yourself in way more time on the ball. You'll find yourself under less pressure, which will obviously allow you to, you know, make better decisions on the ball, be more progressive with your passing, and yeah, it's just gonna help your game overall, to be honest. And then the last thing I mentioned was anaerobic fitness. Now, what do I mean by this? The things with me is that I'd always trained, you know, I'd always seen football as, you know, long distance. So I only trained, you know, 5K runs. I didn't do anything else for my fitness. I just went on long runs. But anaerobic fitness is where you're just constantly doing just sharp, intense movements, but you could do them for a long time without getting tired. So you know what I said just about the double movements, where the academy guys, they were just constantly just double movement all the time. They were constantly just sharp, just bang, bang. They were just there, you understand? And I've even talked to people where it's like, some people have played at a very high level to the point where they even tell me that, yo, JT, it's not necessarily that these guys are technically better. It's just that everything they do is just so sharp, you understand? It's just those quick movements, you know, going to receive the ball, turning on the ball, bouncing the ball back. It's just everything's just, you know, everything's just twice as sharp, more than the case of, they're just technically brilliant. Because you get to a certain point where semi-pro players, and you get to a point when you play semi-professional football where it's like anyone can pluck the ball out from the sky, you understand? Everyone can play a 25-yard diagonal pass once you get to like semi-pro level. It's because it's especially in the UK, there's good players, you understand? Everyone can take the ball, you can boot the ball up in the sky. Most players can, you know, take it down easily, or most players can play that 30-yard cross-field ball. But it's all about the sharpness, you understand? It's all about the sharpness. It's all about how quickly they can actually do that, you understand? So when I say anaerobic fitness, I'm talking about, yo, there's a turnover in play. It's like, yo, when I was playing against the academy guys, anytime we got the ball and there was a turnover in play, let's say we won the ball, the intensity that they got to sprint back, you know what I'm saying? The intensity they got to sprint back, or the intensity they had to, you know, actually swarm the ball, you understand? As soon as, let's say I made a challenge, for example. I made a challenge, I got the ball. Already there was like 2 guys already on me, 2 guys swarming me, and I was like, fucking hell, like, I was like, yo, quickly on the press, or just them little sharp movements, turnover in possession, or making runs off the ball, showing for the ball, receiving for the ball. Like I said, double movements, just that sharpness all the time. That's the last thing that I saw that ultimately made their speed of play quicker than mine, and made their decision making better than mine. Literally, the 3 points I said was scanning, double movements, and then what was the last thing I said? Oh yeah, scanning, double movements, and your anaerobic fitness. Yeah, those were the 3 that I realized that, yo, that's what basically separated the levels between me and them. So yeah, literally, you're gonna have to sort of analyze your games like that if you really want to know, okay, how do I recover from this humbling, you understand? Because the thing is, if you don't do this, if you just say, oh, it doesn't really matter, is what it is, what's it called? You need to realize that, yo, these are the guys, if you really want to become a professional footballer, or if you really want to, you know, take it as far as you can, even if it's a high level of semi-pro football, you have to understand that, yo, these are your competition, yo, these guys are your competition, so you can't just sort of blank it out and learn nothing from it. You can't do that. You always have to take something from there and then apply, you understand? Because like I said, these are your competition. And even if you're like, oh, but I'm not going to be an academy player, let's say you want to be a semi-pro player, fair enough, but you need to realize, some of these academy players are going to get dropped by the academy. And then guess where they go? They go to play semi-pro football. If you've watched the Crystal Palace documentary, you know. If you've watched any sort of academy documentary, you know. The guys who get dropped from, you know, the big academies, even Premier League academies, where do they, a lot of them, they go to semi-professional football. And then this is where, when you play semi-professional football, this is where you hear the stories of, oh yeah, he used to play for Arsenal, he played for Crystal Palace for 7 years, or he played for Chelsea for 7 years. Like, this is where you hear all these guys who are, you know, at academies, you know, had dreams of playing Premier League, but they just didn't end up making it. And guess what? Now they're your competition at semi-pro. So hey, you always have to be prepared, you understand? But yeah, that's the video for today on how to recover from a humbling in football. Literally, the main takeaway from this video is always just to learn from this. You know what I'm saying? One point, even if it's one thing you learn, 2 things, 3 things, whatever you took from it, just make sure you take something and then you apply it. You take something that you need to improve and you go out onto the pitch and you actually improve it. You understand? So you can become a better player. Because like I said, these guys are your competition. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. I've been JT and I'm out.